lecture portion review, nothing new to add here today. Just to give you one final time kind of to hear it from me again, just to make sure that everything is making sense when it comes to blood gas interpretation. So, of course, I can't give you everything, so just a few what I'll call pre-lecture questions, practice questions, which you should already know the answers to anyways, these are nothing difficult. But my question is, what would be the effect on a patient's pH if the CO2 is above 45? Acidosis. Go ahead, don't be shy. Go ahead. Acidosis, yes, that's true. What if the bicarb's above 26? Alkalosis, of course, alkalosis. What would be the effect on pH if the patient's CO2 is below 35? Alkalosis. And what about bicarb below 22? Acidosis, that's right. What system will compensate if the pH is the problem due to the CO2? The metabolic system will compensate. That's the other system. You know what the next question must be then. Which system will compensate if the problem is due to the bicarb? And that's the respiratory system. Of the two, respiratory or metabolic system, which one would compensate the quickest? Respiratory. Because again, you could change your CO2 nearly second to second, minute to minute, whereas bicarb, how long does it take for the bicarb to kind of kick in? 48 hours, could take many hours, day or two to finally fully kick in. So definitely the bicarbonate, the metabolic system takes longer to try to compensate than say the CO2 would. All right, now getting into the slides that I've given you guys. So first one, and I'm not going to write on the board unless you need me to. And again, I know these things are small to project here, but hopefully you're seeing it in front of you. All right, so this one, the pH is 730. We would call that acidosis. The CO2 is 38, normal. PO2 is 90. We'll go ahead and say that for this one. PO2 is 90. PO2 90. That's normal. That's normal. Sorry. Bicarb is 18, less than normal. That would cause an acid. So again, pH is saying acidotic. So who's causing the acidosis here? Metabolic. So this is a metabolic acidosis. Is there any compensation? No. No compensation. So this is just a plain, simple metabolic acidosis. Metabolic acidosis. Again, everyone I've given you here, I think everyone I've given you here is one I didn't create or put on a piece of paper. They're actually blood gas tickets, blood gas reports. That way you may see a few extra things that we haven't really discussed yet. That's okay. And again, part of it, at least here, I'm not going to do it to you on the test. I'm going to give you the fundamental basic blood gas info you need on the test, but I just want you to get used to seeing it when you're in clinical. Somebody's going to hand you a blood gas ticket, blood gas report, and it's going to have a lot of data on it, even more so than what's on this particular one. Muddle through the extras. If they're just asking for acid-base interpretation like we just did, then this is a metabolic acidosis.
So the test is not going to have that? It's just going to
not going to have these. Like I think with all this PowerPoint is today, has a bunch of the different tickets and stuff like that. No, it'll be what will appear on any ABG interpretation questions on the test on Wednesday would be pH, CO2, PO2. Careful not to get CO2 and O2 confused. pH, CO2, O2 bicarbonate, maybe O2 sat, maybe not, but the fundamental stuff. I'm not going to give you electrolytes or anything like what's on this particular one. That stuff will come in due time. All right, so we said metabolic, and I'm just going to call this a metabolic acidosis, right? God bless you, because if there was compensation, we would have said something about that compensation. But I just wrote uncompensated. God bless you, just so there was no confusion. But metabolic acidosis. Next question, pH is 741. We go ahead and just say normal? Normal. CO2 is 97. That's slightly elevated, and I'm being sarcastic with that. Yeah, that's sky high. 97, which would cause an acid. Bicarb, sorry, jumping way down, 61.5. Ridiculously high, yes, and that would cause an alkalosis. So you have respiratory saying acid, metabolic saying alkalosis, and a pH that's normal, but what side of normal is it? the alkalosis side. So there's your culprit. That's what's causing it. It's a metabolic alkalosis that is now what? Fully compensated, and that's why the CO2 is so high, to try to compensate for that pH. So fully compensated metabolic alkalosis with this one, the second one. And you guys stop me or slow me down if we're going too quickly.
So if you say compensated, we're just assuming it's fully compensated?
Correct. If I say compensated, I'm sorry for not doing it, I should have said fully compensated.
Okay.
But if I just said compensated, that's assuming we mean it's fully compensated. All right. But yes, but I should do it as I wrote it down.
Okay.
Fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. Fully compensated metabolic alkalosis here for this one. All right, next one. pH is 7.32. That's an acid. CO2 is elevated at 77. Acid. Bicarb is 39.7. That's elevated, which would cause an alkalosis. Again, your pH is acidotic. So who caused the acidosis? The respiratory system or the metabolic system? The respiratory system. Any compensation here?
Yeah.
Yes, so here's our partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Again, when the time comes that you're looking at these, again, patient's bedside or in a patient's chart or, in clinicals, yes, a lot of this other stuff that we'll get more into in due time, but I'm just jumping all the way. What do you think this patient must be on? Venturi mask, and gee, I wonder what FiO2 they were on, 35%. What color adapter is that? Heck, I don't know, because we should memorize the colored adapters, right? No, I'm going to actually read it.
So, just so I can understand.
Yep.
It's compensated because the HCO is elevated?
So it's compensated again. pH is acid. This is saying acid.
Yeah.
This is saying alkalosis. So one system saying acid, one system saying alkalosis. Again, what is the pH saying? Acid.
Acid.
So who's causing it? It's the respiratory system causing it. So respiratory acidosis, and it's this system trying to take the pH the other direction from being an acid. And that's why when we say this is trying to cause an alkalosis, it's trying to raise that
I'm just
pH
trying to
up.
figure out that I'm thinking the right one is the one that's doing the compensating.
Gotcha. Yep.
Okay.
And again, if the opposite one is trying to take the pH the other direction, like this one is trying, it's trying to compensate.
Okay.
If this one, say, was 19, the bicarb was 19, also causing an acid, and you have respiratory saying acid, and again, I said, let's make this 19. This was low, also causing an acid. That's when you have the combined or mixed acidosis, both systems causing the same thing. And if something's combined or mixed, can there be compensation? No, because both systems are causing the problem, contributing to the problem. All right, next one, pH is 7.48. That's an alkalosis. CO2 is 38. That's normal. And bicarb is 29.1. Alkalosis. So respiratory system saying normal, metabolic saying alkalosis, and a pH that is agreeing saying alkalosis. So your interpretation for this one? Metabolic alkalosis, no compensation or uncompensated metabolic alkalosis. Better in time, repetition, seeing this stuff. Now I don't want to test. You'll feel the pressure of, oh my gosh, am I starting to get them backwards or confused? When I pass out that test, whether it's the Scantron or the test itself, start off, write down your normals. Write down your normals so they're always there and you don't have to think about the normals. All right, are we okay with this one? Uncompensated metabolic alkalosis. All right, next one. pH is 7.35. Normal, and I'll leave it alone. CO2 is 65. That's causing an acidosis, and the metabolic system is, or the bicarb. Oops. Bicarb is saying 36.1. That's an alkalosis. So again, respiratory system saying acid, metabolic system saying alkalosis, and a pH that's normal, but which side of normal is it? Acid. It's the acid side of normal. So who originally caused the acid? The respiratory system. So here's your what? Fully compensated respiratory acidosis. fully compensated respiratory acidosis. What oxygen device is this patient on? Nasal cannula. What liter flow?
1 to 2. It's like
There you go. Who said 1.5? Very good. 1.5. They are on 1.5. Is it 1 liter? What would their FiO2 have been? 24. At 2 liters, what would their FiO2 have been? 28. Somebody put 26. They were on 1.5 liters. In case you're curious, where did 26 come from? We didn't learn that, did we? They're actually on 1.5 liters. Somebody was just trying to be cute with it. But they weren't. They weren't on 2. They weren't on 1. All right, so fully compensated respiratory acidosis for this one. All right, next question. pH 717. Acid. CO2 is 83. Acid. Bicarb is 30.6. Alkalosis. This would be a blah, 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 blah. That's what I heard. Yes. But you're right. I think you guys said the right thing. All right. Partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Partially compensated. It's respiratory because this is elevated, causing this pH to be acidotic. This is going up to try to drive that pH up back to normal, which it's not there yet. That's why it's not considered fully. It's only partially compensated. All right, next one. pH 7.30. That's an acidosis. The CO2 is 38. That's normal. And the bicarb is 18.7. That would cause an acidosis. So which system's causing the problem? Metabolic system. Metabolic's causing the acidosis. Any compensation for this one? No. So what would your interpretation be? Uncompensated metabolic acidosis. That's right. Uncompensated metabolic acidosis. How many of these did I give you today? A lot. 20 something.
And that's good. We can go through every single one.
No problem. No problem. No rush. No rush. All right. Everybody okay with this one? All right. Next question. pH 7.439. This one even carried out one more decimal place. But regardless, 7.439 or 7.44, still normal. CO2 is 47.6. That's elevated. That would cause an acid. And the bicarb is 31.1. That would cause an alkalosis. So respiratory system saying acid, metabolic system saying alkalosis, and a pH that's normal, but which side of normal? The alkalosis side. So your interpretation here would be a fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. Fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. Okay, everybody all right with that one? Now this, again, not getting into this because I'm not testing on it just yet, but there's some other things that are starting to appear on some of these reports. Again, things we'll be talking about in due time. So when you guys start visiting the hospitals and looking at the various blood gases, one hospital's layout could be a little bit different than the other hospital's layout. One hospital may have additional items that another hospital doesn't have those additional items. Every place is unique. They're going to have the basics. They're definitely going to have pH, CO2, PO2, bicarb, O2 sat, hemoglobin, those sort of things. They'll have the basics, but there could be some other things just depending on the facility as far as what they like to additionally look at. And really that comes from the physicians who want to see some of this information. Some of these formulas and calculations that when you're with me, of course, I'm going to make you have to learn, make you have to solve. But when it comes down to, and again, it's not that I take pride in that or joy. Okay, I'm lying. But because the MBRC will, and that's why I make you have to kind of learn those formulas. But at the bedside, thank goodness women, I don't have to do all that math at the bedside because some of these things, it may be done for me. But ultimately, the numbers have to mean something to you. But we'll get to those in time. All right, next one. pH is 7.34. Oh my gosh, that's almost normal, isn't it? Almost, but there has to be a line in the sand somewhere. So if I interpret this, I'm still going to call this acidosis. So it is still an acid, barely, but still an acid. CO2 is 32. That would cause an alkalosis, and the bicarb is 17.4. Acidosis. Okay. So who caused the problem in the first place? Metabolic system. There's your acid. There's your alkalosis. Any compensation?
Partially.
Partially.
Metabolic.
See, yes. Partially compensated metabolic acidosis, just barely partially compensated. The second that hits 7.35 makes it fully. But right now it's still an acid, correct? But the second that would hit 7.35, then we would say, okay, that's normal, but acid side of normal, and that would change this to fully compensated. But we're not quite there yet. Everybody okay with this one? Why do the temperatures pop up on some of these things? Does it matter?
Because the temperature has an effect on this?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And so every time we run a blood gas, we do put in a patient's body temperature because the body temperature can affect the blood gas. I think for simplicity's sake, on the ones I've given you, depending on the facility, let me say that, start here. Depending on the facility, you may have two blood gas values to look at, one at normal body temperature, one at current measured body temperature. So you see the word temp corrected. The numbers may be a little bit different at normal body temperature, but this patient didn't have a normal body temperature. Their temp was a little less than normal. So to eliminate any confusion or looking at the wrong numbers, I went ahead and maybe taken some of those off of here. Jim?
So I can't remember if you'd given us a question where basically like this, but like you said, if the pH was slightly higher and it would be just fully compensated. Because I think anytime you'd given us a fully compensated one, it was either metabolic alkalosis or a respiratory acidosis.
Okay.
So if this pH was 7.34, it would just still be a metabolic acidosis, correct?
If we made this 7.35,
Right.
then it would be a fully compensated metabolic acidosis, right? But we're not there yet. We're almost, but we're not there yet. All right, let's do the next one. Here the pH is 7.05. Definitely acidosis, big time acidosis. CO2 is 63, acid. Bicarb is 17.7, acid. So you have respiratory system saying acid, metabolic system saying acid. Double whammy, I like that. Mixed or combined what? Acidosis. So mixed or combined acidosis. Both systems, respiratory and metabolic, are making this pH acidic. No wonder it's so low. I mean, one system by itself could drive the pH that low, but both systems are causing that pH in this example to go low. Compensation? There couldn't be compensation. If both systems are causing the problem, like I said before, there's no magic third system that just comes out of the woodwork somewhere to try to fix it. No. Both systems are contributing or causing the problem.
What about temperature, like you said earlier? Could the temperature cause it to...
No. It could just alter what our values are slightly. All right, let's look at this one. pH is 7.41, normal. CO2 is 36.8, normal. Bicarb 22.9, normal must equal normal. Okay. Just to point out, their PO2 is 454.9. Is that is that humanly possible?
Apparently, because it's
I
not there.
like that. Apparently, I want to say no, but apparently, if this is a real ticket, let me ask this, do you think this patient must be on supplemental oxygen? That's why it's so high. This patient's probably, and I don't think it's listed on here, this patient's probably on 100% O2. That's why this is so high. If I claimed and said, oh, is this normal? The patient's on breathing room air. You would say no. Not non-room air, it can't be that high.
What about in a, right, what about in a?
Yeah, high chamber, yeah, okay. Maybe we could change that a little bit. But it couldn't be that high breathing room air. This patient has to be on O2 and probably a lot of oxygen to get their PO2 that high. Anyways, neither here nor there, that's a normal ABG. And a patient who looking at this, not knowing what their current FiO2 is, we probably need to lower their FiO2. They probably don't need as much oxygen based on this blood gas and this blood gas alone. Are they smoke inhalation? Carboxy, 2.3%. No, it'd be a lot higher if we pulled them out of a burning building or a fire or something like that. So no. Is their hemoglobin horrible?
If it's a male, no.
Okay, a little lower textbook normal if this was a male, but we don't even know. We don't even know the gender of this patient. But ultimately, normal looking blood gas. All right, this one, pH 741. Normal, CO2 is 53. Acidosis, bicarb is 33.6. Alkalosis, so acidosis from the respiratory system, alkalosis from the metabolic system, a pH that's normal, but which side of normal is it? The alkalotic side of normal, so it's the bicarb that was causing the alkalosis. So your interpretation for this? Fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. Fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. Too many to count? Okay, that's all you need to tell me. Okay, too many to count. Not even close to the end. All right. This particular one, pH is 7.55. Alkalosis. CO2 is 77. Acidosis. And if I jump down looking at the bicarb, just to point out, notice the question mark here for the bicarb? It says, what's that symbol? Greater than 60.
So does it have like a parameter that's?
This particular blood gas machine that analyzed this patient's ABG, the highest the bicarbonate could read was 60.
So it's higher than that.
And so all the system knows, all the analyzer can tell is the bicarb's higher than 60. But for our interpretation, we're still good with that. It could be 61, it could be 101. I don't know because it doesn't read that high. But respiratory system saying acid, bicarbonate saying alkalosis, and a pH that's alkalosis. Who's causing the alkalosis? The metabolic system. Any compensation? Yes, partially compensated. Go ahead, Connor.
So I know in like emergency situations you can push bicarb to correct acidosis. Is there any sort of treatment like that for somebody whose bicarb would be so
The other
ridiculously high?
way? No,
Check some more
and we do
juice
have to be
today.
careful with pushing bicarbonate for an acidosis, because we know already, what does bicarb break down to? CO2, so initially to correct that acidosis, you're eventually gonna lead to more CO2 in the system, which would cause acidosis. So it's one of those, if the acidosis is ridiculously low, you will see them push bicarbonate to try to neutralize the extremely acidotic pH, yes. But they generally don't like to accept in extreme examples or extreme emergency situations. But there's not necessarily the quick fix to drop bring the pH immediately down. You can't necessarily push a acid per se to cause that, or to immediately try to fix that or correct that. But it's ultimately, and we'll get into this in time, this is something we'll talk about not next semester, but the summer semester, what can cause this. And then if we can figure out what the cause of this is, then maybe something to fix what this is, what's leading to this in the first place, to correct that issue.
You telling me I can't just push some orange juice in there and call it a day?
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, this one, pH is 7.15. Acidosis. Again, careful on this one. This is not my sequence. This is not my report. It kind of pauses me for a second because that's not the way I visually think about them. It gave the O2 next at 115. Okay, that's fine. CO2 should be the next thing I look at. That's 20, less than normal. Alkalosis, and a bicarb that is. Is there supposed to be another number in front of it? Oh yeah, it's only 8. It's only 8. So that's causing an acid. CO2 is causing a alkalosis, but the pH is definitely saying acid. So who's causing the acid here? Which system? Metabolic system. There you go. Partially compensated metabolic acidosis. Partially compensated metabolic acidosis with this one. All right, next one. Here the pH is 7.16. Acid. CO2 is 41. That's normal. And the bicarb is 14.6. Acidosis. So which system's causing the acid? Respiratory or metabolic? Metabolic's causing the acidosis. Is the other system trying to compensate? Not yet. Not causing anything yet. So here's your uncompensated metabolic acidosis. If this was going to compensate, again, if this example, this was going to compensate, would the CO2 want to go up or go down? It would want to go down. And again, until it hits 34, 35, I still would say it hasn't done anything yet. The second it hits 34, then it would be our quote-unquote beginning to compensate, partially compensating. But right now it's not doing anything. So an uncompensated metabolic acidosis for this one. Yep, I heard that, yes. If I don't say, no, it's fine. If we just said metabolic acidosis, what you're saying is there's no compensation. I got the daddy ears, so I hear All right, that means if we just say metabolic acidosis, what you're telling me is that means no compensation. Because if there was compensation, you would have mentioned it. All right, here we go. 736. Normal. CO2 85. Acid. Bicarb of 48. Alkalosis. So what is it? Go ahead. Fully compensated. Fully compensated respiratory acidosis. Respiratory because it's the CO2 that's caused the acid originally here. All right, so fully compensated respiratory acidosis.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
what makes it fully? Is it the fact that it's normal?
Because the pH is in normal range.
Okay.
pH is in normal range. It's between 7.35, 7.45. And the reason it's respiratory, because which side of that normal pH range is it? Again, if you remember 7.35 to 7.45, with 7.40 being the absolutely perfect pH, 7.36 is more on the acid side of normal. And so that's why I'm saying, okay, well, which one caused the acid originally? It's the respiratory system. If this was 7.41 on the normal, but on the alkalotic side, then it would have been a fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. And the thing about compensation, the body will not overcompensate.
So if your pH is 7.40, which side would you?
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there. I know. We'll get there. We'll get there. I know you all are anxious.
I'm waiting so patiently. I've been waiting all weekend.
It's not make you suffer, right? All right, we'll get to that one. All right, so pH here is 7.50. Alkalosis. CO2 is 17. Alkalosis. And the bicarb is 13.6. Acidosis. So metabolic saying acid. Respiratory saying alkalosis, but a pH that's alkalotic side of normal, so which one's causing the alkalosis here? The respiratory system. Partially compensated respiratory alkalosis. Again, the CO2 is saying alkalosis, the bicarb is saying acidosis. So alkalosis versus acidosis, but the pH is alkalotic. So which system caused the alkalosis here? It's the respiratory system. And the other system, in this case the metabolic system, is trying to compensate. And because it's not in normal range yet, I can't call it fully, only partial. So as this continues and the pH then hits 749, 748, 746, still partially compensated, but the second it hits 745, then it would be fully compensated respiratory alkalosis. All right, and the arrows drive me crazy, sorry. Too much to look at. pH 716, acidosis. CO2 is 19. That would cause an alkalosis, and the bicarb, at the bottom, 6.8. That would cause an acid. So the pH is acid, so definitely this is causing it. And is this causing it? No. That's trying to compensate. So it's a metabolic. Go ahead, you guys tell me.
Partially compensated metabolic acidosis.
Partially compensated metabolic acidosis. That's right.
Oh, was that out loud?
Chad tells me it's on the recording. So. All right. Oh, this is an easy one. All right. pH 740. Normal. CO2 62. Acid. Bicarb 39. Alkalosis. So clearly this is a what?
Some sort of compensation going on. Fully compensated something.
But it,
Fully compensated something. I like
but
that.
how do you define that?
Okay.
It's right in the middle.
Okay. So it's, go ahead. Grace was going to say it's a fully compensated what? It's a fully compensated. It's one of two things. It's either a fully compensated respiratory acidosis, or it's a fully compensated metabolic alkalosis.
So we would not
which
know.
one?
So what's the answer?
What?
Well, the
what's
higher one is
answer?
acidosis difference, correct?
So what's the answer? Respiratory
So-
system saying acid, metabolic system saying alkalosis, and a pH that is perfectly normal. Again, what did I say about compensation? It's attempting to compensate to get the pH to what? Normal. And by God, it is normal. Okay, so it is fully compensated. Whichever system caused it in the first place, the other system has corrected at least the pH to make the pH normal. So everything is now fully compensated, fully corrected pH-wise by the other system. But to answer the question, this is in front of you, this is on the test, this is question number 1 on the test, and you're pulling your hair, you're pulling your hair out going, it's either A or it's B. Which one do I answer?
Both.
They both right now would be correct. There is no way to sit there and separate and say, well, it has to be this one or it has to be that one. It is one of the two, but based on what I'm seeing in front of me, I can't give you a definitive answer. It's this one specifically or it's this one specifically. What do you think you would have to look at to determine which one it is?
Possibly how far out of the normal each. So like if the CO2 is a lot higher from the normal than the alkalosis is normal.
Maybe like check renal function.
Not a bad thought, but no, that's way too much.
Would it be the O2?
No, O2 is different. She's gonna keep throwing that up there until one time it's right. 6 months later, yes, that is finally, Jeremy.
Clinical, I don't know, clinical.
You're looking in the patient's chart. This is the most recent one you're looking at.
You would look at the
history.
previous ones.
What if we looked at the previous blood gas to see where the pH was earlier? What if the pH was 737 earlier? Then what's your answer? It was the acidosis. That's what the problem is. And now we're finally, you just happen to get damn lucky, and this is when you drew the blood gas, and this is what the number has. And you're trying to interpret.
But if it's the first one, then you're gonna redraw, that's the only way, or
Redraw.
like in later, but if that's the
Because again,
first guess.
the body will not overcompensate. But what I would want to know is, what was the pH earlier?
No,
Previous.
that's what I'm saying, like if the patient, that's the first blood gas you're getting.
Okay,
You're
okay, I
gonna
see what you're saying.
wait and take another one, or how
No,
do you,
no.
it's normal, so you don't care.
pH is normal.
Like, kind of.
Without going to that extreme? I mean, I do care.
No, I mean,
That's what I
like,
would do to
doesn't
doctor, you
matter, it's
know, my time
Thank
compensated.
you.
It's like, it's
At this point, as far as treatment or what we can do to fix it,
nothing, yeah.
the pH is where it's supposed to be. Okay? This is quote unquote our patient's normal right now. Everett, where it's supposed to be. Okay? Yes, this had to change, and or this had to change to correct it. It's corrected. There's nothing else we need to do right now. But if someone like me comes up to you and says, well, I want to know what the interpretation is, ha ha ha, he, which one is it? You couldn't interpret. You would need to know, well, what was the pH earlier? And I see what you're saying. What if we didn't have an earlier pH?
So what's the answer gonna be on the test?
Full compensation.
You gotta put both together.
Have to see. Well, let's have to see which one you put.
I always put
Would
as
I,
the
would,
first question.
let me be fair.
Yes,
let
you
me,
would.
Let me be fair. And I know, Chad, you know what I'm about to say. Would I really give you this on a test? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. On the recording, I wouldn't. Okay?
All right. well,
Your evidence. Now I can lie, and it was AI generated. I wouldn't give you this on a test because it wouldn't be fair. It's one of the two. It's one of the two. But I would give you, oh, the pH was 739. Well, what if the pH was 739 here and everything else was still the same? Then it's a fully compensated respiratory acidosis. What if I said the pH was 741? Fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. That's what I would give you on the test. Okay, and notice I waited till the last, really one of the last ones, anyways, to give you just to see what you think when it comes to this. And generally, and Jeremy probably was going crazy this weekend looking at it so much he texted me.
I did.
Which I just so you know, I got a couple of texts this weekend. My son got married, and it was so funny. The couple of texts I got from the class, from individuals in the class, occurred right as we're lining up. I think you guys must have knew, right? Okay. And I'm like,
Or like you had your phone connected via Bluetooth and you heard it.
thankfully I had silence. But no, so apologize I didn't get back with you guys quickly until this morning. But and Jeremy, I would have never answered that question anyway, so I said wait till Monday. But I just want, it's possible. It could happen. You just happen to get lucky. I don't know if lucky's the right word.
Doctor's lucky.
It's fine for the
Doctor's giving it
patient.
to him.
Patient's fine. Patient's okay here. No problem with the patient. It's just, if we're trying to say one versus the other, this is, I don't want to say impossible, but it will be very challenging to look at this and go, okay, yeah, it's clearly this one or it's clearly that one. I would need to know what the pH was earlier. Where did it start from to get to here? That's all. And this is just me having a little fun with you guys.
I saw you say like we're gonna go over. I'm like, he's gonna bring a whole new term into this, isn't he?
No new terms, nothing. But it is fully compensated.
Period.
Something, right? Clearly, it's fully compensated. Something. All right. So everything we've looked at, the majority of things we've looked at, whether it's today or previously, have been all about that acid-base balance, right? That's the challenging part of ABG interpretation. Is it respiratory? Is it metabolic? Is it compensated? Is it partially or fully compensated? Is it uncompensated? Whatever. That's the most difficult part of interpreting a blood gas. And please continue to review, continue to practice with these. This next couple of slides I've given you, I'm asking for something specific. And it's not acid-base balance. I know it doesn't say this on your slide. Give it all away. So I wanted you to interpret the patient's oxygenation status based on this information. okay? So if I'm looking at this patient's blood gas, and again, oxygenation, what do I look at blood gas wise to determine how well someone is oxygenating? How about PO2? Okay. I could also take it another way and say, what about oxygen saturation? Maybe even hemoglobin if I'm being really overly analytical. Right now I'm really just focusing on, let's not forget about that PO2 number. It appears in the blood gases. I know we don't need it for acid-base interpretation, acid-base balance, but it does mean something to us. This patient's at 66. Is that hypoxemia?
Yes.
Okay, yes, it is hypoxemia. Would that be classified as mild, moderate, or severe? If a PO2 is less than 80, I simply would call that, less than 80 is hypoxemia, period. Okay? If I'm trying to separate mild, moderate, severe, if it's less than 80, but not below 60, that's mild. If it's below 60 and not below 40, there's your moderate. If it's below 40, clearly severe, hypoxemia. So I threw this in here because you are going to have some of these blood gases to interpret this way. And I don't want you to forget, okay, got to look at oxygenation too. Remember when we did part 1 of this ABG interpretation thing? I started with the easiest one, hypoxemia, no hypoxemia, or if it is hypoxemia, mild, moderate, severe. That's the easiest part. That's the easiest part. And we spent most of our time on acid-base balance because that's the most challenging part. But prior to Wednesday's test, don't forget about this. Don't forget about looking at this and going PO2. Now, if you find on the test you're getting on a roll, and again, these questions will be all intermixed. You may have 2 or 3 blood gases to interpret in a row, and then another question about, I don't know, DRG in the brain, or one of the reflexes, or one of the peripheral chemoreceptors. And then boom, there's 3 more ABGs to interpret. But in one of those, I don't ask for acid-base balance, I ask for this. Now I think you'll realize when you look at the answer options, you may look at this and go, oh, that's a metabolic alkalosis. You go to answer metabolic alkalosis, but I didn't give you, that wasn't even an option on the answers. Because I said mild, moderate, severe hypoxemia, or normal oxygenation. Okay, so maybe that would be the first clue. Oh, wait a minute, I got to look at this part. But don't forget when you're interpreting acid-base balance, yes, that's the hardest part, but don't forget about the oxygenation piece here. All right, a couple more. What about this one? Again, I'm strictly asking oxygenation. PO2 60.
Right there.
I know it's right there on the border. Right there on that border, right?
Could be either.
So am I.
So if it's less than 80, but not less than 60, mild. Less than 60, but not less than 40, there's your moderate. So we're technically right at the mild, but if it knocks one more step below, then we're in that moderate range for hypoxemia. Again, I just pulled the blood gas tickets. I know patients who had issues with oxygenation. I think I got one more here. Woo. pH 740, CO2 39, bicarb 24. Was this the one we had earlier? Or was it a different one? That when we interpreted, we said, oh, normal. And I said, it's normal acid base. Normal, normal, normal. But what do you think about this patient's PO2? What do you think about that patient's O2 sat? Again, that's the patient you can't, after drawing the blood gas and getting the results, and the doctor says, how is so-and-so's blood gas? Oh, it's normal. I gotta go give a treatment. And then the doctor finds out later, an hour later, and looks and goes, oh my God, you call that normal? You're no longer allowed to work in our ICU, right? So acid-base balance, that's normal, but this patient has what type of hypoxemia? Severe. It's less than 40. It's less than 40. Severe hypoxemia.
Well, if the doctor asked about the acid base, I'm like, it's normal. Acid base is normal.
But they're generally not asking specific. Here it is. How was the blood gas? That's very generic question, right? But acid base, fine, but severe hypoxemia with this particular patient. All right, so this was the very first ABG I gave you. Okay, not that we were interpreting it at the time, we weren't there. I just wanted to show you some of the stuff that was there. This was that actual blood gas. So pH is 730. That's low, causing an acid. CO2 was 123. Acid. If this thing had arrows, there should be 3 arrows pointed up, right? Really, really high. Oxygenation. There's no hypoxemia here, so that's technically normal. Bicarb, 60.5. That's causing an alkalosis, so respiratory system saying acidosis, metabolic system saying alkalosis, a pH that's not normal, less than normal. So what's your interpretation? Wah. Yeah. So I didn't even put an answer here. So yes. So partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Partially compensated respiratory acidosis with this one. With no hypoxemia, all right? But, let me just say this, one last little but here. What is this patient on oxygen-wise? It's at the very bottom. I know it's hard to see. They're on a non-rebreathing mask.
That's bad.
They're on a non-rebreathing mask. Approximately, what FiO2 are they getting? 60, 80, 100, depending on the textbook you're looking at, right? Right, and I get it, and I definitely understand. I still say the same thing. Egan says 60 to 80, but it's still providing an extremely high FiO2. This patient needs all of this just to get their PO2, holy cow, to normal. So I'm happy it's 84, but my take-home message is, what if we put them on room air? That patient who had a PO2 at 34 earlier, that's what this patient may look like. It's taken a whole lot of oxygen just to get their PO2 to what ours is right now, breathing 21%, breathing room air.
With that, will give you interpretation that the device might not be the optimal for this type of patient, or it could be getting better.
Well, with this one, the device definitely is necessary to keep their oxygenation normal.
But because you know that it's delivering up to 100, it's 284, will maybe another.
I'd say we're oxygenation-wise. I'd say we're okay with what we have, but it's taking a lot of O2 just to get them here.
With the CO2 that high, this patient would probably be fairly breathing, right?
To get you, again, how would you right now be able to raise your own CO2? Stop breathing. Stop breathing. Instead of breathing 10 or 12 times a minute, breathe 1 time in a minute. Your CO2 is going to start to rise. Instead of breathing a normal tidal volume of 500 mLs, only breathe 100 mLs. Yeah, Connor, you're right. This patient is not ventilating, not breathing well at all. That's why their CO2 is so high. We'll be getting into that once we get past interpretation. Because eventually we'll get to, okay, what are we going to do to try to fix this poor person's blood gas to help them remove normal amounts of CO2, which this person right now cannot. Maybe this is you guys in time. No matter how hard I try, I can't get away from work. You start seeing things that are respiratory related. If you're not there yet, you will be in time, trust me.
I'm going to be bald before I graduate.
All right, so any questions? Any questions? So what's Wednesday? A test. A test this Wednesday. Now, if I were you, if I were in your shoes, and you're thinking, you know, yeah, okay, I get the blood gases, and chapter 9 stuff, chapter 11 stuff that we went over. The slides from chapters 9, chapter 11, yeah, definitely look at that. But to point out just a few things, if I were you, I'd make sure you jot down, and I'll tell you if you want to take a picture of this one, you can take a good picture. Know the difference between what hyperventilation means versus hypoventilation means. Okay? Make sure you remember about carbon dioxide transport. If you remember, the body transports oxygen in 2 places. The body transports carbon dioxide in 3 places. Anybody want to mention one? Attached to hemoglobin. What's that word? carbaminohemoglobin in plasma. What percentage of the whole thing is dissolved in plasma for CO2? 10%, very good. And then what's the third way? Bicarb. Most of it, 70%, there you go, is carried as bicarb. So good. Can I?
But 90% is in the red.
No.
No,
Are we-
you can't. No, you can't. Come on.
Just get the test out of the way right now. It sounds like you know it. Come on.
Everybody do this.
But- oh, brother. And that ends the review right there. All right. Difference between the Bohr effect and the Haldane effect. Okay. Look back at those two. They're similar, but they are different. Right? They're similar, but they are different. The medullary respiratory centers, for example, the DRG, the VRG, the dorsal or ventral respiratory group. One really deals with inspiratory neurons. One really deals with expiratory neurons. One's this, one of the et ceteras, the switch-off point. Look back at that stuff. That was chapter, thank you, 11. The different reflex control of breathing. Remember Herring-Brewer inflation reflex, Herring-Brewer deflation reflex, the muscle spindles, the peripheral propriocenters, heads reflex, what? Thank you, the J receptors, the juxtacapillary receptors. So look back at those different receptors. There's what, 7 of them, 8 of them, something like that. Each one kind of has its own unique thing. People throwing things in the back, they're so upset. If you want a picture, that may be a good time to snap a picture if you want it. Wait, click. Sorry, got your hand in there. Okay, there's a few more. There's one more slide.
Oh my
The terms carbaminohemoglobin, carbonic anhydrase, carbonic acid, that was all part of the CO2 transport, okay? But those terms, I know sometimes, especially first semester, what gets a lot of students sometimes is I throw in a term, yeah, we talked about it, but I sure as heck don't remember it anymore. It was there for a second and then it disappeared. Don't forget, those make obviously easy questions to ask, going, okay, how many will remember this word? How many won't remember this word? That thing. But don't forget carbaminohemoglobin, carbonic anhydrase, carbonic acid. The different chemoreceptors, central, meaning here in the brain, the peripheral chemoreceptors are located at 2 locations. They're called the aortic bodies and the carotid bodies. Make sure you look back at those. Central chemoreceptors respond to a specific stimuli, whereas the peripheral chemoreceptors respond to 3 different stimuli, right? CO2, O2, pH, that sort of thing. Look back at that stuff to review that stuff. Carbon dioxide's effect on cerebral blood flow as well as intracranial pressures. Remember, CO2 can cause cerebral vasoconstriction. If you let it get too high, what does that have on blood flow getting to the brain? You let it get too low, what effect does that have on blood flow going to the brain? And in turn, what does that do to intracranial pressures? Look back at those. There's a couple of questions specifically related to those. And then maybe a blood gas to interpret or two. About, probably to be honest and to be fair, probably about 45% of the test on Wednesday is going to come from blood gases.
Honestly, I'll take that.
Yeah, that's either applause or oh crap, because either you got it or you don't have it there. And when I say blood gases, it could be straight up, here's the blood gas, interpret it, right? And it's all multiple choice, but for blood gas interpretation, there may be 5 choices and not 4 choices. There could be blood gases to interpret. What I'm considering a blood gas interpretation could be the PO2, and you telling me what if it's normal or if it's hypoxemia, mild, moderate, severe. So don't forget, I consider that part of ABG interpretation. remember those pre-questions that you guys just all aced before we started the lecture?
Oh, like if it's.
I consider that a blood gas question. If it's this problem, which system compensates? Of course, it's the opposite. I think that's a very easy question if you get the blood gas interpretation. So I consider those blood gas interpretations. I could even ask, what's a normal this or what's a normal that, blood gas wise. I consider that a blood gas interpretation type question. So when it comes to especially the blood gases where I'm giving you the numbers and you have to put it together, you have to interpret it. When I do pass out that test on Wednesday, or the Scantron, whichever, I would say turn that sucker over, start writing down the normals so you have them. They're in front of you, and when you do get blood gases, even though you may be 12 blood gas interpretations in, you still have your normals. You're not having to think about it each and every time. In time, you won't have to write it down. It'll be there. It'll be stuck. It'll be tattooed on your brain. But now in the beginning, I would say just jot it down and maybe even add to it. If the CO2 is high, that means acid. If the CO2 is low, that means alkalosis. If the bicarb is high, that means alkalosis. If the bicarb is low, that means acidosis. Maybe tag that with it. The oxygenation. What's mild, what's moderate, what's severe. I would, if I was in your shoes, I would take that. I wouldn't even look at question number 1 yet. Flip my thing over, I'd write all that down. There's my cheat sheet. I can have it, I can use it, I can use it for every single question on the test. And then anything else you feel important that you need to write down to help you. Any questions? Any questions? So on Wednesday, first thing we'll do at 9:30 is take care of this test, knock this test out of the way. And then we'll do the next chapter in fundamentals, chapter 44.
No class tomorrow.
That's right, thank you. And no class tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow's a holiday, Veterans Day. Thank you to all our veterans that are in the room. But yes, no class tomorrow. So dress warm, sleep in. You don't have to be here. And just maybe.